What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the fourth album by industrial metal band Fear Factory. Basically this product is called Digimortal and it came out in the spring of 2001. So the thing about this particular product here is this was a part of a trilogy that started with Demanufacture and then continued with Obsolete in 1998. So it's been a long while since I reviewed Fear Factory as far as those pitches can happen. I wanted to definitely get back to them because I do remember thoroughly enjoying Obsolete way back in 2016 when I reviewed it. Quality album there, that's their most mainstream and particular commercial album I'd have to say within those pitches, which is saying something because they're relatively underground for the most part. Fair. They really only have about 3 or 4 or 5 singles that charted in any sense, unlike the US main charts or things of that relative sense, and for the most part they just don't commonly chart whatsoever. It's just kind of within the pitch behind it. But this is a classic album here. I think I enjoyed this album more than I enjoyed Obsolete, but nowadays, since it's been since 2016 since I reviewed Obsolete, I think I probably enjoyed that album a lot more, but I don't remember what I gave it back in the day. But it did have some of their hit singles like Descent and Cars and some of those type ones. There's like some routine kind of radio staples, at least they were back in the mid-late 2010s when I reviewed it, but it's just within the pitch, so it's just some good concepts. This has at least one charting single out this particular project, and it really doesn't have that much promotion. It has only 2 singles here, but it's just within the fashion. It's just within the fashion as far as saying that there are a lot of buzz singles, not so much buzz singles, but at least pretty much highlighted choices that probably could have been singles just within the pitch behind it. This is a relatively radio-ready record, I'd have to say, and out of the songs I recommend on here, out of the 15 songs, including like the deluxe edition, I wound up recommending all 15. So it's simple enough to say this album gets a 10 out of 10. Just the shot in the arm that was necessary for like some good pitches to kind of say this is some quality stuff here. And the thing about this particular music is it's very similar to like some Cage type music, pretty similar to like Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, some of those type folks. A little bit of like Sepultura in there as far as some of those particular pitches kind of go along with it. I'd also say traces of like traces of Deftones in there, some of those type folks from like late 90s to early 2000s, some of those particular type fares. This particular industrial metal is pretty heavy within the quality of it. It also has similar fashions like the rave type appeal of folks like Power Man 5000, some of those particular type folks. Definitely some rave type music. You kind of get some rave dance type noises within the pitches of some of that, and also like some good Cage type music. So if you're a part of like the UFC and wrestling type crowd that like that consistent kind of this more contact sport type action within the pitch behind, as far as just like more turn up in like a more ferocious kind of crowded type fashion, this is definitely an album for some of that type fare. Just a real compulsive type album that has a lot of good aspects about it, and it's just vicious type album, some great backyard type music. It was just this like a good aspect to kind of get here for like the tone. It's just basically like the manicness of Korn with just a little bit more actual kind of brutality about it. I'd say Korn's a little bit more crazy, like a more sadistic type fashion, but this is a little bit more brutality just in the aspect of some of that particular type fare. So it's just a good conduct here. So, like Wikipedia says that this particular subgenre here is a little bit of new metal, so it's a good type pitch. It's been a while since I reviewed full-blown kind of new metal that I don't know about as much nowadays, so it's a good type pitch to kind of get some of that refreshing aspect to see what new metal's been up to in some of the eras that I did remember but just didn't commonly cover back in like 2016, 2017. So it's just a vicious type one here. Just really fits like a glove. Just the aspect behind it, just real continued thorough quality. Just as a classic album here, just in the aspect. And it feels like Obsolete. I would probably say to possibly start with Obsolete just in terms of like the more commercial. If you need something, if you don't know this particular band, you're like, who the hell is this? Some of those type fashions. I just would say the tone behind it. Obsolete's a little bit more commercial bound. With that one, had like 5 or even 6 singles, and at least 2 or 3 of those were ones that charted on the US main charts or the US rock charts, some of those type fares. But I would have to say this album's a little bit quieter, but it is also more fun within the aspect as far as having some vicious turn up for just like some Cage nights and rave nights and just heavy dance nights within some of those type pitches. Just real manic type one. So I'm just going to start covering the singles here. So like I said, it's relatively brief with only 2, but it's a good aspect to kind of get some of these just within the tongues. These are like the quality of this record is pretty much on here, and I will denote later on some of the ones that feel like they could have been buzz singles or promo singles as far as those pitches can happen, because there's at least 3 or 4 or even 5 of those. And also it's pretty dope that Be Real from Cypress Hill's on here. So, but within the pitch, so Lynchpin is the first single, lead single. It's like a gnarled kind of backyard hot ticket to kind of get here, some hot ticket kind of riling, good smoke session, evening cookout fun to kind of have within some of those aspects. Definitely some good venue ambience, I'd have to say, within the tones. Just got some good thump about it. It's a little bit crazier for like a backyard type fashion. For like a more residential type fare, it definitely handles the business as far as being able to get crunk within some of those type fashions, but it's also like a pretty good one to just kind of enjoy the ambience, like a venue type noise, just the conduct of just some good type fare, just have some drink in your system, some of those type moments, to just some socializing with pals. Just either way, whether it's residential or more more larger kind of outing step out, just works within the fashion. This has pretty good radio ready hook. It's a nice single in here, charted decently on the rock chart, so it's just a classic type hit in like the new metal, industrial metal type fold from the early 2000s. Good type fare. kind of within the pitch behind it. Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies is the second single. This is one that there's not terribly many songs like this on here, but this is another commercial grab as far as this pitch kind of went. It's too bad this song didn't chart because it's a pretty nice one here. It's like a woozy kind of post-grunge-esque kind of float around, I'd have to say, within those pitches. Just basic cruising, I'd have to say, and Vanilla Aaron's kind of day within some of those type pitches. So when you think of folks, can't think of, like, there was someone, I think it was Seven Dust, that did like the song Waffle, some of those type ones. It's songs like Waffle and songs like ones that, like, I forget the one that did Control. I think it was Puddle of Mud, but then it wasn't Puddle. It was the one. It's similar to like Puddle of Mud's Control, but I don't remember who it was. Like, they did like the song Mud Shovel. It's similar to Mud Shovel. Some of those just kind of. Just some of those overcast, kind of cloudy, kind of summer hot day cruise around, similar to Mud Shovel, some of those type pitches. So I'm gonna look that up actually, because I don't remember who did Mud Shovel. You know, it was Stain that did Mud Shovel, some of those type pitches. So it just has a similar type fashion, just a cloudy type day type one to kind of get within some of those type fares. It's Vanilla Aaron's type music within the pitch. Another radio ready type one. This is probably a little bit more commercial than Lynchpin, I'd have to say. I'm surprised that Invisible Wounds doesn't have more popularity than it does, because it is a pretty nice gem to kind of get within those fashions. But the basic concept about this product, that's the commercial balance of it. Nice 1-2 punch, but there are some other ones on here, but it just seems almost like, in a mild sense, that Fear Factory is a little bit more in hardcore type territory, but they're definitely worth the investment, just judging by the quality of this product. I would, like, once again, I'd say probably start with Obsolete, but this within the aspect, this does have some vicious stuff on here. This is probably the crazier one. From what I remember, Obsolete, the particular fashion is a little bit more techno and electro on this particular one, just a little bit more glitzy kind of rave type music within the fashion, so it's a little bit more social, but just despite the fact that I do remember Obsolete being a pretty vicious type one, just kind of more consistent kind of industrial metal, more like Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson, but this one's a little bit more dance ready. So some of these songs on here, so some of the ones towards the beginning of the album are the ones that have the most single potential. I'd say like Digimortal, the title track's a real vicious type ones, like a bass guitar thumping kind of night venue noise kind of get here, similar to Mud Shovel, some of those type songs like I was saying. Also similar to Lynchpin, some of those type ones. It goes pretty well with Lynchpin, I'd have to say, a good concept for that, and it's like a cage night kind of nice rave buzz tune, kind of get within those aspects. So this is definitely one of the ones to go for in the most immediate sense, just in the fashion, something that has like some relative radio type appeal. The most commercial type ones kind of have within some of those aspects, like a craze night, but also something that just is social. Real nice ones. Strain vs. Resistance is another one within that relative fair. This is like a wide awake kind of venue turn up to kind of get here, just feeling good kind of socials, I would definitely say about this one. Nice radio appeal, definitely, and this is an immediate one to kind of have within those aspects. So there are some nice hooks on here, good batch of hooks that just have the fashion, similar to like how Slipknot kind of does. They kind of switch between like the growling type hooks, just with an aspect of more metal and industrial type fare that like Slipknot kind of does, with this something of like what Slipknot would do with like a song like Wait and Bleed, one of those type pitches where it's a little bit more sing-songy, ready for radio appeal. So it has some good aspects about some of those. It's kind of the concept, if you like songs by Fear Factory like Descent, it has that same sort of pitch of just having those radio type appeals of it. But just, and I do like that particular. Originally I was going to think that this was just not commercial. That's what I used to think back in 2016. I pretty much would have reviewed this product way back in 2016 or 2017. Don't know why I didn't, but I think the reason why I didn't was probably just the fact because it didn't have any charting singles. I thought maybe it just wasn't that good, but damn was I wrong as far as those pitches can have. I should have reviewed it back in those days, but I may not have liked it as much as I do nowadays, but I just would look after it. Definitely, the quality is there. There's just some ones on here. Another immediate one to go for, I'd say, within some of those type tones is Hurt Conveyor. This is like a streaming kind of rave. Hurt Conveyor is like a steaming kind of rave music, crowded kind of dance highlight to kind of get within those pitches. Just consistent quality cage music, I'd have to say about this song. It's just an overall red hot type one. So just some of these really have those red hot type hooks. It's the appeal. Songs like Descent, not quite as commercial as like songs like Cars, but just in the aspect, just having like those good buzz type noise for just industrial metal that makes through commercial ground. So it's just within the pitch, getting a lot of good commercial tunes from like a band that doesn't typically have that particular flashback. So there's definitely some good radio type appeals for some of that. Some more ones that are like that would be songs like Damage. It's like a stock rave night metal snarlage, kind of get within some of those particular tones. The instrumentation on this album is pretty vicious. They are just like Sepultura, bands like Slipknot, bands like Mudvayne, bands like Mushroomhead, some of those type of folks, Metallica, just folks that really go crazy with some of this. Damage is like a basic bop for like a social frat, I'd have to say. Some of those type tones is capable of being like a promo tune, I'd have to say about this one. It's just an overall hot song, so it's just some good pitches for that. A lot of these, because I'm having to remember 15 songs in here, which is a little bit more normal than the fashion when I think of metal albums. Most of the time metal albums only have like about 10, 11, 12, or 13 songs for us those pitches can have, so trying to remember all 15 of these, in addition to the fact that just the particular fares behind. Just understand a lot of these ones that I'm talking about up front are just pretty similar type fashions for like some good dance club and rave type noise kind of get here. They have immediate kind of radio ready hooks, but it's this kind of fashion. As far as full bound, trying to remember them is still a little bit trickier, but I do think a lot of these are pretty much radio ready to go in terms like for the most. I mean, maybe not in terms like hearing that you're going to hear them every day on the radio, but at least within the fashion having some consistent kind of relative kind of commercial appeal, at least for folks that don't commonly chart. And I would say like No One is another one within that sense that I'd say is like some consistent kind of red hot metal pounding kind of get here, pretty similar to like the Obsolete days. I'd say about this one is some basic residential hangout noise kind of get within those tones. So it's just some good concepts. A lot of this does work for like some pretty good backyard type fare just within those pitches. Just what I'd say there's some dungeon type music on here for like more indoor hangout type sessions, smoke sesh type fare, just good concept of this homies type music. Great song for your pals. Just if you do have some consistent pals, if you're not all just only with your ball and chain, some of those type pitches, but you do have moments where it's you and the boys and not just for once a year for like Super Bowl or Independence Day, but it's kind of within the concept of having normal kind of homies roundups, just some good type pitches to have some of this music. It's definitely a good social festivity for like sometimes just having some smoke sesh or get-togethers. So some of those type pitches. Back the Fuck Up is a nice one on here. I think definitely more metal bands need to feature more rappers within some. I definitely think more metal bands. I think they have done this in certain fashions, but this definitely needs to pop up more often. Where like a rapper like Be Real or Ice Cube, some of those type folks like Ice Cube did a song with Korn, but more folks like Be Real and Ice Cube need to pop up with some of these folks and just be. I mean, this was back in 2001 that this happened, but it needs this something that needs to kind of happen where they kind of, because I realize that the other band members don't as commonly drop verses just because of the concept that it's usually just the lead vocalist, but just getting like some guest verses on like a rock album would be some excellent type fare, because Be Real does a pretty good job in the song Back the Fuck Up. This is like an electro metal tune. Great rave highlight to kind of get here, and a nice dance jumper, I'd have to say. Good cameo, definitely from Be Real, I'd have to say. And this just has some radio appeal about it. Once again, another nice one for that. And this lit songs. There's like 5, 6, 7, 8 songs out of the 15. I am reviewing the limited edition Digipack, which has 4 extra songs, which is a good type pitch. Those songs are excellent too, so I would recommend getting that edition because the 4 extra songs do hit pretty heavily as well. Good type fare for that. But it's just kind of the concept as far as saying the Back the Fuck Up's another nice one. A lot of immediate ones on here just with an aspect. This is definitely a rave type song. This has consistent viciousness on here. It's a good type tone for that. Talk about the instrumental song Full Metal Contact. This is a quality one. I do like the fact that this is an instrumental, some good type fare. It's like in it. This is the song where the energy gets turned hella crazy. I'd have to say ferocious kind of it's like ferocious kind of mosh pit candor to kind of have here. Definite one to get tore up to, or just definitely one to kind of have things get tore up to as far as those pitches can happen. Just like a throwback to Obsolete, I'd have to say within some of those type pitches. So definite one that just reminds me of more typical kind of industrial metal and just overall metal type fashion. Just some real shreddage on here. It's a good song to kind of let the ambience kind of go as far as those pitches kind of go. The first song you hear on this project, What Will Become's another quality one. With the first song you hear on this project, What Will Become's another quality one as well. I'd have to say it's like a heavy shredding. This song's like a heavy shredding kind of venue crazy night. I'd have to say about this one is backyard commotion, definitely like a typical kind of Liddy shenanigan about this one. You know, songs like What Will Become and Acres is kind of just some nice ones for like the concept of like some venue noise just within the concept of like some good pounding just within how it particularly kind of goes with it. This typical kind of shenanigan type fare. Some of these are just where the shreddage just really gets turned up within some of those type of appeals. So it's just some nice ones. A lot of these is once again some hangout type fashions here. Acres is again is just like What Will Become, and I'd say good backyard party kind of night kickoff to kind of get here. Good backyard party kind of night kickoff to kind of get here. Just routine commotion. I had to say definite smoke sesh kind of homies late turn up to kind of have within some of that type fashion. I had to say so it's just within the tone behind it. Just good type appeals. Cookout type music, standard type fare. Just summer nights. Some of those type pitches. Just good festivities kind of have within some of those aspects. Just typical kind of local shindig type fare within some of those. I'd say Memory Imprints Never End is a quality one within some of those aspects as well as like a relative kind of warped and murky kind of power ballad stretch kind of get here. Just another cruise around. Goes pretty well with Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies, but just not as malaise and woozy, just more like post-grunge, I'd say. Memory Imprints a little bit more just kind of a murky type one, kind of an in-between of like Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies, and then like Descent from like Obsolete, I'd have to say. It's just kind of one that's just a stretcher kind of within a sense. Just some moody night commute to kind of get here. Just typical type fare if you're out and about in your vehicle 8:30, 9 p.m. when the sun is set, pitches like that, where it's more night type fare, just night errands, pitches like that, standard commerce just to get some tasks done. Some good concepts kind of have for some of that type fashion, I'd say. So it's good type appeals. I really like the cruise around type appeal. That particular one is some nice ones kind of get for some of that. Dead Man Walking is a Dead Man Walking is a bitchin' one as well. I'd say it's like a nice after work shift kind of commerce kind of get here, just shredding, manic, get errands done, and let off some steam within some of those type pitches. So this is one that's similar to Bathory when Bathory would do some of those type songs from the 80s just within the pitch of just kind of being within a metal sense is something that's really shredding pretty heavily, but just the concept of getting errands done is kind of metal for like more makeshift type fashion when you're more amongst your vehicle. Some of those type fares that I'd say good type pitch can have for some of those just because the concept that you do need metal for some makeshift as far as that particular one goes. If you're just going to Walmart, just going to Target, some of those type pitches, just getting envelopes or standard pitches like that, getting cell phone covers, some of those type fares, just getting batteries, some of those type pitches, just being able to say some good concepts for some of that to just have like just out and about just within a fashion and commerce, but just kind of with the shredding in mind. I'd say it's a good type fare. Repentance is a nice one. This is a good bitchin' one as well. I'd say it's like a stock gnarled kind of dungeon music and heavy hangout fun to kind of get here. Definite nice one to bust out the beers and get hella turned up. So there are some ones for more indoor type fashion. Not all of these are backyard homies kind of hang out, but just the concept of this dungeon type music that like Metallica, Bathory, some of those type folks would kind of do within some of those type pitches. Just some good type tones for that. Even Megadeth, some of those type ones. Just the difference between indoor type, more hangout type fare, and just the pitch behind some of these. Bite Block is another one that's like Repentance. I'd have to say it's like a grand kind of house party and social highlight to kind of get here. Just some larger kind of dungeon music with maybe a few more folks than just like typical just one or two or three like some of the typical dungeon type music type fare. When you think of dungeon music, it's this kind of concept. It's not so much like a huge social festivity. Maybe it's just you and maybe one or two pals just within the pitch behind it. But some of these type ones, I feel like Bite Block's just a little bit more commotion about it. One of those ones where it's going to be a hell of a night and just an overall nice hit to kind of get within those aspects. So just a little bit more commotion. Maybe some bells are there as well just within the pitch as far as just like standard commotion. A little bit more just aspected about it, but just has the same concept of just being more kind of heavy dungeon music. So it's good type tone, just some good aspects for the socialize. And I think I talked about every song on here. So once again, this album gets a 10 out of 10. The Soldier Scar I'll probably give like a 9.75 2 out of 10. I mean, I feel like it would get like a 10 out of 10 within the fashion, but I just feel like the concept, it just doesn't feel like this album gets enough chances within the aspect of like the quality that it has just within the tone. It only has one charting single. Unfortunately, Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies didn't chart that heavily, and it's just kind of within the concept. I like the B-Real cameo in here, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying it just feels like a lot of this probably got more ignored than it probably should have just within the pitch behind it. It's pretty social. This is cage night type music, definitely some UFC bound type stuff just within some of those type fairs, some of that type of stuff. Rave music, standard pitches like that, places where you'd hear songs like Beautiful People Every Night by Marilyn Manson, some of those type folks, just pitches like that, that standard kind of craze, just feralness of like typical kind of early 2000s DVD movies, some of those type pitches that you would have got back in those days, like Freddy vs. Jason type fare, just within that particular pitch is good, nice craziness for that factor. Just a more brutal version of Korn, like I was saying. So 9.75, just because it has the commercial bops on here, being able to say it, but it just feels like it just doesn't get the attention it probably needs. So then tell them, but I look after in terms of future, I'm not really as full-bound sure what Fear Factory's been up to in recent times. I know that they've at least dropped albums into at least the 2010s. I want to say they've at least dropped now, maybe in the 2020s. It's just within the fashion. They don't commonly drop as much considering that they have been around since like the mid-90s, just within some of those type pitches. They were on their fourth album in 2001, and their third album came out in 1998, so they might have been around as far back as like 93, 94, some of those type pitches. Not really sure, but it's just within the pitch saying they do have plenty of hit albums. It's definitely a vicious type one. Once again, recommend all 15 songs in here, so that should definitely say something. Just vicious, kind of dance crazy album, definite rave night type music type fun. Some makeshift songs on here, easy recommended classic, especially in new metal and industrial metal.